After his outrageous heroics against Newcastle United, there's lots of people suggesting that Alisson of Liverpool Football Club is the GOAT goalkeeper, the greatest of all time in Premier League history. But is he? We thought, Gasky and I thought, we would do the top 5 all-time Premier League keepers. We settled the debate on the top 5 right-backs a few weeks ago. We're now back better and bigger than ever, and we are doing top 5 goalkeepers all-time Premier League history. We've got to take into account longevity. We've got to take into account how good they were at their peak. We've got to take into account how good they were in their prime. Everything will and must be considered. Gasky, we like these ones, don't we? We like these sort of podcasts.
Yeah, I enjoy this because it doesn't. I think it's very difficult to have a lot of drama unless you get, the odd biased person who's like, I'm going to include a player from my team just for fun.
And also, sorry, go on.
But in all seriousness, I think most people, I find this much more difficult than the right backs. There's a lot more chopping and changing, but I think I'm happy with my top 5.
I was just going to say, it's also good that we do these top 5s because it takes you away from having to talk about the football that your club.
Oh yeah, I don't have to worry about watching it and not knowing. It's like it's like lottery. It's like you don't know what's going to show up. It could be anything.
Yeah, for sure. So what we've done is, as always with these, we've consulted the Patreon supporters. We've amalgamated their top 5s. We are going to be discussing the Patreon community top 5. And we're going to compare it to ours. I've not seen Gasky's. Gasky's not seen mine, although I believe that we have basically the same players, maybe not necessarily in the same order. But let's start from number 5. As I say, this is the Patreon community top 5 all-time Premier League keepers. And in number 5, it's a player, Gasky. I can't lie. He's not in my top 5. It's a Manchester United goalkeeper, and it's David De Gea, one of the more modern entries.
Yeah.
Now, first of all, Gasky, do you have him in yours?
I don't have him in my top 5.
Interesting. And I don't have him in mine. I'm quite surprised he was in here because even though, I mean, sort of in football, you sort of like remembered as how good your last season was, and it's not been a good end to his Man United career for De Gea, but he is in the, I would definitely put him in top 10. And he's definitely deserving of a place in that, so in and around this area, because even though he had a couple of shaky seasons towards the end of his career, but let's not take it away from that. He was a very good keeper for at one stage.
Oh yeah, definitely. He was like 6-7 for me. I think consistency is what dropped him out of the top 5. I think the top 5 are consistent performers, and that's what gets them that extra edge. But De Gea at his peak was like, I think you could tell rival teams just couldn't stand it. He was save United on count. I mean, 3 Player of the Year awards at United in a row is ridiculous, especially for the club like United. But for a goalkeeper to get that anywhere is insane. Lacked on the actual modern. I think he struggled. I think he came through an era of where reflex style goalkeepers were becoming a thing, but then he fell behind where he became the goalkeeper becomes an 11th outfield player.
Yes.
And he fell behind in that era. But in that gap, he was unbeatable. He was one of the best in the world, easily. But he just doesn't reach that top 5 level in Premier history. 6th or 7th, for me, but I don't think he reaches top 5, personally.
Yeah, I think that history has not looked on him, will not look on him that favourably, because people will remember him for the sort of like the errors and shot stopping. But I think the main critique people have, you touched on it, because we're in the modern era now. You've got to be able to use your feet. You've got to be comfortable on the ball. And De Gea was never that sort of player.
Which to me was really strange, because when he first joined, that was what he was good at. But his shot stopping was which his liability at. And it's as if it's just reversed. He can't play with the ball at his feet, but he can save. Yeah. But then when the saving started drying up, that's when you knew it's time for him to go on. And the fact he hasn't got another club now shows that potentially he's not good enough for anywhere.
Yeah, I wonder what would have happened if, in that fabled, when he was like in his absolute
fax machine.
Exactly, the infamous fax.
If the fax machine worked, would he potentially have gone down as one of the greatest goalkeepers ever?
Yeah, because I don't think Courtois is that good with his feet. To be fair, I don't think he's unbelievable.
Let's be fair. Courtois just has these. He's similar to De Gea, in my opinion. He just has these games where he's just a different level. and he doesn't do amazing things with feet. Yeah, he's miles more accurate than De Gea, but I think when you've got that midfield at Real Madrid, you don't need to be good with your feet.
Sorry, go on.
I say where De Gea is having to face so many shots every game, just with the mess United have been in the last decade, I think that's where it stood out for him in the amount of saves he makes.
Yeah, and I was just going to say, he'd definitely have, at least a Champions League or two at Real Madrid.
Yeah.
I know Courtois was good for Real Madrid, but I don't think he was like the difference maker in some of those campaigns. So I think he would have got at least one for sure. And maybe history would have looked at him more favourably, but as it was, it didn't happen. And he struggled, and United ultimately struggled in that period as well. But you guys popped him in at number 5. In the number 4 spot, I think this player is not in the right position, me personally. I think he should probably be maybe one. I've got him one space higher. I've got this player in 3rd. Another United goalkeeper, Edwin van der Sar. Gasky.
Yes, I have him in 3rd as well.
Okay, so interesting. So we've both got the same 3rd place keeper. And I think lots of people will, especially sort of like the younger generation, will think of Van der Sar obviously as a United keeper, which is fair enough. But he was also a very, very good keeper at Fulham as well. It wasn't just he came to United, a very old keeper.
Across every team, at Ajax, he was fantastic. And then he joined, I can't remember if he joined anywhere in the gap, but then he went up to Fulham as like in his 30s. And he was great. And United needed another goalkeeper after Tim Howard, wasn't it? And then he was available, came quite old, but I feel like he was the last of the traditional goalkeeper style, like 6'7" and could just stretch the length of the goal. But he was just good at everything. He wasn't amazing at anything, but he was just great at everything, and he covered every aspect of his game.
Shad, my favourite Van der Sar save. It's the 2011 Champions League final. I think was that his last season actually.
De Gea was 12-13. I think. Or was it 11-12?
De Gea was 11-12. That may have been
it would have been his last. Yeah, it would have been his last season.
That would have been his last game then, the Champions League final.
Champions League final.
I think it was a Messi shot, and it was destined for the top corner, and he somehow stretched to it and like a cat.
Yeah, you could tell, couldn't you? Because he was that tall. The amount of saves he's made that was like fingertips around the post was ridiculous.
I think that obviously very good at Ajax and Fulham, as we've said, but I think if he went to United sort of like 10 years prior, let's say if he had a dynasty, a legacy at United, I think he probably would be in top 2 conversations, maybe.
Potentially top. If he had an extra decade to play there, he'd be top.
Yeah.
Easily.
Yeah, so you guys have got him in number 4. We've got him in number 3. Before we move on to the community number 3, though, Gasky, there's at least, I think there's one player that you and I have selected, but I think you selected him anyway, but he's not made the top 5, and that might be more of an age thing. England's number 1 for a long period of time. I've got David Seaman in my top 5.
I do. I have him in 4th on mine.
I've got him in 4th.
Yeah. David Seaman was a fantastic goalkeeper. I mean, I think a lot of people remember him for getting chipped by.
I was going to say that because he became a bit of a meme, didn't he?
He did, but he was fantastic. He was a brilliant goalkeeper in his day. Arsenal won titles with him, and they had an amazing team, and it started at the back. Yeah, in the goalkeeper, he was brilliant. It was hard to. Him and Van der Sar were very similar in terms of you don't remember many mistakes from them. Yeah, they were just pure consistency.
I think maybe another thing maybe going against David Seaman, apart from the age thing, is that if you had to say list 2 iconic moments involving David Seaman, sadly, I think you'd think of goals he conceded. You'd think of the Ronaldinho one. And I think you'd think of the Rooney debut goal for Everton, where he it was outside the box and he did him.
It was quite simple.
Was like sort of was that 2003, 2004?
Yeah, something like that.
So it's a shame because there was one amazing save he did against Gaza at Wembley, I think. And you mentioned before an iconic Arsenal keeper, Man City legend. He came to us when he was washed. But yeah, he was England's number 1 from 1990 something up until 2002
for a long time,
ages. Yeah, so in my opinion, he deserves to be on the spot, and not just based on longevity, also based on when he was good. He was very good, world class. Yeah, exactly. But
it just seemed to the Premier League back in the day just had there were so many just pure consistent goalkeepers. Like Mark Schwarzer was there for a long time. Brad Frieda was there for a long time.
Tim Howard.
Shea Given. They were there for a long time. They were just consistent. You know, there was nothing special about them. They just did their job pretty much.
Coming in at number 3 for the Patreon top 5 is, I think, is a disgrace.
I think this is a disgrace as well. For me, the top 2 was a debate, and exactly. I'm sorry, Patreon subscribers, you're a joke for this. This is disgusting behaviour.
I'm hoping it's just an age thing, and maybe it is, to be fair, because I think he left United in '99, didn't he? It's Peter Schmeichel, who is in number 3. Now, I always chop and change between my first 1 and 2. For me, they're basically on a par. For the purposes of this top 5, I've put Peter in second.
I got him in first.
They
are very, very close. I think we know who second's going to be, but they are very close.
Yeah. Well, if you asked me last month, I would have said Peter. If you asked me the day before, I would have said, the other person who we're talking about it. Because for me, it is basically a toss of a coin. It doesn't really matter.
Who you ask. If you ask someone in their 50s, they'll say Peter, and they'll say the other person. If you ask them if they're 10 years younger, but that's what's good about these lists is there was 2 clearly to us outstanders.
Yeah, exactly. So our top 5s are basically the same. As I said, we agree that 1 and 2 are basically identical. But yes, so it's Peter Schmeichel's in third for you guys, which I'm not very happy with.
Scandalous. Scandalous.
I think he came to United in the first division days, like before the actual Premier League, I think.
Yeah, it was before. Yeah, of 91. I think. Yeah, I think it was 91.
Yeah, but bought him for like no money at all. Was there for 10 years. Obviously won the treble.
Absolute animal.
Terrifying. I mean, Gary Neville keeps saying how he was scared of him.
Exactly. That's what you should have. You should be that fear of being scared that making a mistake, the goalkeeper's going to come in and clout you. And that's the first thing a goalkeeper should have. And 2, he wasn't just, he was a massive keeper and he'd make them great saves. And his reflexes were insane for the size of him. Yeah. Like the iconic save he made with his, that when he pulled the goal from behind him.
Oh, yeah.
From that header. And just things like just how does someone that big have their reflexes? He was absolutely incredible.
Yeah, and if you're a centre forward, going in for a challenge with Schmeichel, you don't want to.
You're coming out bad.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think. Are there any keepers like him anymore where he sort of strikes fear from a goal? There aren't really many. Like goalkeepers normally nowadays are quite weedy.
But you get in trouble for it now. Like I think Peter Schmeichel was the first goalkeeper I remember who would lead when they come collect a cross. They'd lead with their knee. And you can't do that nowadays. You just get penalised for it, and people moan, going, "You're going to hurt him." It's like lead with your knee, and it's your box. They come basically they're trespassing. Get them out.
But yeah, he were won numerous. He was part of that early Man United team who dominated the league to a point where not even City have managed to match that yet. Obviously, won the treble, even won the Euros with Denmark. As well, using sort of the back pass rule or lack thereof, but still winning the Euros. Very impressive there. And I don't think there really is in the modern era. I don't think there is a keeper like him. And I guess what people might say is, which I guess is unfair because I think you've got to judge keepers. I think you've got to judge players in their era. So people will say, but Peter Schmeichel, he didn't play with his feet. He couldn't do that. If Peter Schmeichel was raised and trained in the modern era, there's no reason why he couldn't be taught to use his feet.
Then we had this discussion when we did the United transfers because we chatted about Barthez. Barthez nowadays would be one of the best goalkeepers in the Premier League with the way they play, but
he was
when he came through, he wasn't. When he came through, it was like the goalkeeper. Why are you off your line? But then De Gea was like that at the end of his United career. He was on his line, and that was an issue. So it shows you how it's so reversed, but. Schmeichel was just good at doing the goalkeeper job of the 90s.
Yeah.
But then I think if he was in the game now, I think he'd be fine.
I agree. And as I say,
he manages his box. So it's fine. Okay, he's not great at, he wouldn't be the best at passing it or whatever, but he'd there'd be a lot of nosebleeds for them strikers. Be fair.
Yeah, exactly. And as I say, if he's like a 14-year-old keeper, growing up in this era, he would learn how to use his feet. So if you plopped him in the era, assuming the modern training, I think he'd be absolutely. Yeah. I'm not saying he'd be Edison level, but he wouldn't be incompetent. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
So he's in third for you guys, but Gasky and I put him first/second. You know, it might as well be a joint first from my perspective.
I agree.
Right now, and this is the reason why Schmeichel's in third, because you guys, I started the podcast by saying, lots of people popping Alisson in GOAT keeper debates. I think this is staggering that he is in second place. I've got him. I popped him in here in fifth. I've also put him. I was saying, me and Gasky, we've not collaborated on our top fives, by the way, but it was basically the same. Sorry, carry on with what you were going to say about Alisson.
I was just going to say, I can understand why people would see it, because Alisson's all-round game is very, very good. And the fact that he's already in the top 5 list means that he could potentially make his way up to like third. I don't think he'll get anywhere near the top 2, but I think he's going to be making his way up this list because he's still young, for a goalkeeper, and he can still spend a lot of time at Liverpool potentially. But to put him ahead of Peter Schmeichel now,
and even Van der Sar, I think.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. It says this is what we said. You only look from every angle. You look at the legacy they leave. You look at how good they are in their prime. You look at how good they are in their overall game. It says him and Ederson aren't far off in terms of ability, and we haven't mentioned Ederson, right? Ederson would still be top 10.
Definitely.
Ederson would probably be with David De Gea on just outside.
Around 7-ish, yeah.
6th, 7th, yeah. It'd be them two fighting it out. Alisson's only 5th because I would say he's better than Ederson and David De Gea across the board. Like he's better all-round goalkeeper. Like he's a better shot stopper than Ederson, but Ederson's better on his feet.
Yes.
But he's not that much better at his feet than Alisson. So that's where he gets 5th. He's nowhere near anything higher than that.
No shot, yeah. No shot.
If you give him another couple of years, he'll probably go above David Seaman for me. And he'll make his way up. But right now, second's staggering. Yeah. It really is.
Look, I like... We're not saying he's a bad keeper. I think he's probably currently the best keeper in the world. I think that's fine.
No, that's safe to say.
But I obviously he is better than Ederson, but I don't think there's that much difference between the two. I don't think it's like a massive chasm. Obviously, Alisson's a better keeper, but I don't think it's a massive chasm between the two. And the reason why I just can't even begin to entertain him being near Schmeichel, someone who we're about to talk about next, Van der Sar, etc., is because as good as Alisson is, he makes too many mistakes. Which sounds like a silly thing to say because he makes so many great saves, but there's just too many like really weird clangers that he drops. Like sometimes when he's playing out, it's normally like when he's playing out from the back, but it's just I just don't associate that with any of these other keepers.
Because he did that. It was against City, did that one where he went to like he didn't let it go out for corner or something, and he just gave it away at the corner flag.
I mean, he made like 2 mistakes in that game.
And then there was one. Yeah, and I think it was against Watford or something when he just kicked it at the striker and he just tapped it in, and it was just like little errors which I don't remember. Van der Sar probably did a couple, but nothing as outrageous as that. And Czech probably did. Oh, I should have mentioned it, but you know what I mean.
Spoilers.
But Schmeichel didn't do outrageous things like that. They probably misjudged crosses and things. They're human. It's like a striker missing an open net or missing a tap in. But to put him that high is just amazing. Like,
yeah, I think
I think it shows age. And it shows who they've watched,
and maybe even like some recency bias there.
Yeah, definitely. Like him and Ederson are a huge gap for every other goalkeeper in the Prem at the moment. A massive gap. But Alisson isn't that far ahead of Ederson at all. No, yeah, and if he does this for like another, I think he's arguably Liverpool's best player, and he is very good. Let's not get that. Make no mistake about that. But to be in the conversations of top 2, 3, 4 all time greats. Yeah, I need more. I think, and you got to look at it from this perspective. If he was to leave next season, do you still have him as second best goalkeeper ever in the Premier League? So there's not a chance. Not a chance he's left enough of a legacy in the Premier League if he was to leave next year, for example. So there's no reason why he couldn't be up there. But right now it's nowhere near.
Yeah, definitely.
Totally just to say as well, this is the second debate we've done. We're not a Liverpool hating podcast. It just seems to be that there's been 2 Liverpool players in the 2 positions that we kind of just slandered.
Yeah. Well, that's a bigger conversation about certain online Liverpool fans overrating Klopp's Liverpool, I think.
Yeah, definitely. Like they're a great team, but I mean, you'd have more if these were the best players. So
yeah, exactly. I mean, and we're seeing it. I mean, we're going off on a tangent here, but we're seeing it with Arsenal fans now who are saying they've got
exactly
the best player. Well, you should probably have one more if you've got the best in each position, etc.
Exactly. You've got great players, but
reel it in. Yeah. Look, Alisson could get there, but in my opinion, he's nowhere near.
I mean, to be fifth with these guys is brilliant.
Definitely,
to even be in the top 5, and you've got time on your hand in Alisson's hands. So yeah.
Now, obviously, number 1 is Czech. Before we chat about Czech, half of the Patreon people had Alisson as their number 1. The only reason Czech technically got first in your rankings is because more people put Czech in their top 5 than Alisson. So
Czech won it because he was mentioned more.
Yeah. So like a couple of people didn't have Alisson in the top 5, whereas everyone had Czech in the top 5. So even though they got the same average score weighted, that's why Czech got in there. But as I said, the fact that half the people put Alisson as their number 1 is, I personally don't see it.
That to me is definitely recency bias. Definitely.
But anyway, let's move on to number 1, who, again, this is my number 1 on this day, but ask me tomorrow, and Czech might be my number 2, Peter Schmeichel my number 1. That's how close they are. But I think we can agree, Gasky, that having Czech as number 1 is a fine.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Petr Cech was, again, he was the more modern Peter Schmeichel. He didn't have the aggression, but he was faultless. He was faultless at his peak at Chelsea. You couldn't. It was. He'll be known for his helmet, but unknown for his just because consistency. He didn't do anything special. You can see he did 15 in one season.
Yeah, that was
obviously he could close the defense as well, but he just he just did what he had to do, and he was. I honestly, I might be wrong. Someone will probably prove me wrong, but I can't think of an error he made, a blunder.
Not one that's high profile. That's for sure.
Not Chelsea. I think Arsenal was a bit iffy, but then he sort of
done stuff. End of his career, wasn't it?
Well, yeah, exactly. So, but yeah, he was fantastic. He was brilliant.
Yeah, I mean, and even like you mentioned the helmet. That I think that you could even say that pre-helmet Czech was even better than sort of like helmet Czech.
But for someone to go through such, like, being a goalkeeper is a risky business. Like, your foot's coming flying at you all the time. But to come back from that type of injury and people vote you as the best ever in the league is incredible.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen like some players with similar injuries, like be a not the same player at all, or have to like can it in, or go down a level. But he basically maintained it, and which is just like most people, I think, would regard him as like maybe top 3 keepers ever in terms of like modern, like people have like him, Buffon,
80s plus,
Neuer, Casillas, definitely probably like top maybe like 3rd or 4th ever.
Exactly like they're all different styles of keeper, but you'd have him in the conversation.
Definitely, yeah. And you mentioned that the 15 goals conceded stat, obviously a stalwart at Chelsea. Won the penalty shootout for the Champions League final in 2012. Did he save Ronaldo's penalty, or did Ronaldo hit the post in 2008?
Did he miss the target?
Or did he just miss it?
I missed the target.
I was thinking if Czech saved any penalties in that final.
I don't remember him. No, because that was the only one United missed.
Was that the one?
I don't think it was a save. I think he missed the target.
Did he like stutter and hit and miss the target?
Maybe he stutter and missed the whole target, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
I think it was.
Yeah, but yeah, so Czech. And again, look, was he able to play with his feet? No, but he wasn't being asked to do that. It's similar to the Peter one. You've got to rank them in their era.
And it's the era, isn't it? Like, let's be fair. Who, apart from obviously when we had the conversation about Barthez, who was the keeper that played with his feet before Ederson? Really, I think Ederson was like the first one.
Neuer.
Really? Well, yeah, but Neuer didn't even play in his box. Yeah, I forgot about Neuer.
A bit of Valdez.
To be fair, I remember Neuer when United played against Schalke, and I was like, he sold himself to United there, Neuer, but obviously Fergie decided De Gea instead. But yeah.
But there we go, guys. That is the top 5. So just to recap, your guys' top 5: David De Gea in 4th, David De Gea in 5th, Van der Sar in 4th, Peter Schmeichel in 3rd, Alisson in 2nd, and Czech in 1st. Overall, I don't think it was as bad as the right back's top 5. To be fair, I think there was more uniformity there.
I think the actual 5 is fair, but the order's a mess. And these Patreon subscribers need to put their ideas up, because when we do the next position,
you better sort it out.
Sort yourselves out.
Sort it out. Just some players who didn't quite make it, but people still threw in. Kasper Schmeichel got a shout. Gomez of Spurs and Watford fame. Shay Given, I think he's top 10 maybe for Shay Given.
Yeah.
Courtois got quite a few. So one person popped him fifth, one person popped him fourth. He didn't play enough for Chelsea, and even when he
won a league title, but it's like having Kasper Schmeichel there. It's like you have the same impact. So you haven't been there long, but I'd probably say Kasper Schmeichel had a bigger impact in the Premier League than Courtois.
Maybe, but if it was like the overall player, you'd have Courtois in here. But we're not considering Real Madrid Courtois. It's all about the Chelsea one. And he didn't do enough in that 4-year period for me to make this top 5. But guys, we really hope you have enjoyed listening to this top 5 podcast. If you want to get involved in the top 5 and have us shout at and critique your list, so for us to debate
your Liverpool players.
Yes, exactly. Oh my god, when we do centre backs, if there's a certain individual, I'm gonna pop off.
We know what's going to happen. We know what is going to happen.
Oh my god. If you want to annoy us and put Virgil van Dijk in your top 5 all-time Prem centre halves, then you can sign up to the Patreon. You can the lowest tier to even get involved in the podcast stuff is the I think it's called NobCast Ultra, which is £3 a month, including VAT. The link will be in the description and the show notes of this podcast. So yes, if you would like to support the channel, and you get to support and you get those lovely perks as well. So if you want to do that, more than welcome to. Gasky, have you been Gasky?
I have indeed.
Have I been Nobbins?
I'm pretty sure you have.
Shall they listen to us next time?
They should listen to us every time.
That's the right answer. We'll see you guys later. Goodbye.